You brought up, of course, that you're a veteran, and I would be remiss to not ask you about how you feel that has helped impact your leadership abilities. And we did touch on the gun issue a little bit already in one of your answers, but just tell me, just from your perspective, like, how does it affect your leadership? Why does it make you qualified for this position? And as somebody that has literally handled weapons of war, you know, you're an Apache helicopter pilot. Where's the line that we should be drawing to try and stop mass shootings, to try and stop gun violence in this country?
Yeah, those are two great questions, and for me, they're tied together. So my experience in the service was a tale as old as time for a lot of women in uniform, where it was a mix of incredible opportunity, but also some discrimination, and also having to fight through and make your voice heard and be put into these positions of leadership. And I will say the military was, from when I initially joined to when I left, there were a lot more women stepping into leadership positions, and there was this better recognition that women service members do come to the table. We provide a lot of leadership. So when I first started out, I had to kind of claw my way through spaces where otherwise women might not have been accepted. I was one of only a handful that got to go into the Apache course. When I was in flight school and selected that course, I think there were five of us out of several hundred in the class who actually earned a slot in the attack helicopter training, which went on, you know, in the later portion of flight school. And I've shared with others that I faced a lot of threats and harassment online or in person from men in my cohort who, despite not being as high ranked as me in the order of merit list, felt they deserved these opportunities more than I did. And so that was the real first taste of, oh, my presence might not always be welcome. And then when I actually got into the Apache course, I was, of course, the only woman there, and the building, and they've since built another one, so this problem has been fixed. But the building was an old training building on an older airfield, and there's only men's restrooms in it. So I had to wait for everyone else in my class to go, and it just kind of reinforced this "you're not supposed to belong here" attitude. And we have moved very far forward from that. But those were the early experiences that shaped my determination to always have a strong voice in the room. And as a commander, as a platoon leader through combat tours, I really learned how to just say what needs to be said, not be afraid. And something I really talk about, especially when I'm mentoring young women leaders, is sometimes it's easier to get the courage to say the tough thing. Where you really need to have that courage is to stay in the room after you say it and interact with the same people for the hours and days and months afterward. And when we look at what's going on in Washington right now, we need leaders who can stay in the room and have these hard conversations, but then come out of that room with a compromise and forward action. Because I think a lot of people look at Washington and they see this gridlock, this inaction, and that's accurate. We have a congressman who goes to Washington and doesn't really get anything done. He says a lot. He moves some pieces around the chessboard a little bit, but doesn't actually get anything done. And I think people see that, not just in him, but in other leadership. So now when we talk, what can we do about guns? Let's put it bluntly. I think people who want action are seeing a lack of it in Congress. And the recent bill that was passed was actually quite historic in getting movement forward. I think it had been years since action had been taken. So let's acknowledge that. However, it doesn't go far enough. And I do say this as someone who was an attack helicopter pilot. But you know what? I had to train for years in order to be assessed as proficient and worthy of handling a helicopter is a weapon. It is a weapon. And when we look at what we are facing, I want to differentiate the conversation between responsible gun ownership. My brother's a hunter. He takes care of his weapon. He has a young baby girl. He keeps the ammunition separate from the gun and keeps it locked up. And I know there are individuals out there who take that kind of care. However, we have others, as we've all seen in the news, that don't. And that is where we need to have that conversation. So passing universal background checks, holding gun manufacturers accountable for their marketing when they speak to those who might seek to do mass harm with weapons. That is crucial. When you start financially holding these manufacturers accountable, that changes the game, because that puts their money where their mouth is, and that makes it a really powerful piece of legislation. And we need to do that. And we saw previous court action has shown that there is a pathway to that. So I just want to make that clear. That's not hypothetical. We have done it. We can also codify it now. And then let's be very blunt on weapons of war are in our backyards. And I know I'm probably not telling your listeners anything they don't know about that, but hopefully a veteran saying that really puts some weight behind it. Just here in Bensalem a few weeks ago, there was a household where a gentleman had an AK-47, and the police had to go respond to that. So when we start looking at the burdens on our community that these weapons have, it's not only for the individual carrying it, or the family or the potential victims that surround them, but you also are now putting first responders in a position where they have to go up against weapons that I saw in Iraq. And no one should have to go up against that right here at home. So we need leaders who will speak out against that, and of course, elected officials who will vote to eradicate assault rifles from our community.